Uh, you're right, this is too much of a disciplined crowd. I have never been in Netaji with such silence in many ways. The last time I was in Netaji, when I spoke in Netaji, was in 1990 for my farewell speech in April of 1990, representing the whole the student community, and the director was sitting there, Dr. K.L. Chopra. He actually nearly wanted to kill me in the middle of my speech, because the only thing I spoke about the hostel condition. I said, you expect the cream of the nation to be here, but I'm sorry, the state of the hostels are really pathetic. And so next day he came to Nehru Hall, of the Hall P of Nehru, and said, do you want to become a politician or what? I said, I complained and I also gave you solutions. It does not mean I want to be a politician. I said, come to the bathrooms. Come, so I really used his bathrooms. Because we already had a love-hate relationship with Dr. K.L. Chopra, because in my third year when I was Chief Exports of Nehru Hall, he made a mandate that there will be no chappals. No student will come to classes with chappals. Then I made a representation to K.L. Chopra saying that, boss, we really don't have money to buy shoes. Next day, quite a few of us from Nehru Hall came to classes with nothing, with no shoes and no chappals. You said no chappals, right? That's all you said. So this was that was my last speech here. Now you know how old I am. In 1990, in April. Many of you might not have been born, I guess. But yes, it's something that I would say what I have learned is more outside the classes than inside. Also thanks to Professor Y.P. Singh, that myself and Professor Rez would thank to be a Department of Energy Engineering. And I'm also shocked to see so many students, that we have 13,000 students in the Department of Energy Engineering. We were 7 of us. Can you imagine bunking a class? The toughest part of how do you bunk in a 7-member class, right? And then the funny, so we had all out of the 7, 3 became entrepreneurs. One is a colleague, a friend, lab partner, Pavanvesh, who created Daksh and sold Daksh to IBM for millions of dollars, and now he's head of another law firm. Nilanjan Bhaumik is another well-known entrepreneur in Delhi. So Energy Department actually gave us, I'm very sad and shocked actually when they closed down Energy Department in IIT Kharagpur, but I think that was something that was closed which actually helped us to think of entrepreneurship, and we also had a challenge inside the Energy Department. One of the departments that was really afraid of Energy Department was Computer Science Department, because we had a common class called as thermodynamics, not called as, it's thermodynamics, I'm sure it's called as thermodynamics, where we had computer science students, you had energy students, and you had mining. Now we had 2 spectrums between us. Like we were energy, you had mining on one end, we know was inko to hara sakta hai. Then you had computer science guys. And the mining guys were brilliant, who kept the interest in the class alive, because there were a couple of people who always brought sugarcane to the class. And we would eat, they would eat and share with us. And you know, the energy department, actually, the first 4 highest marks were energy department guys. The computer science guys would always, if you look at Pavanvesh, he was a hockey captain of IIT, Avtar Singh, he was the basketball captain of IIT, Shovik, TT captain of IIT. Pavanvesh and Avtar would always get 10s. Both were in fight for the BC Roy. Extracurriculars, both were, 3 of us were in the Senate. It was the beauty of actually balancing academics and extracurricular activities that actually leads to thinking of so-called entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is too much of a buzzword, redefine it. I would say to a lot of, I'm very glad that a lot of people are here for this summit, and thanks to the students who and to the School of Entrepreneurship which has done that. The question is about how do you want to take it forward is up to you. Don't listen too much. Fundamental, because you have a fundamental idea in your mind, you got to take the risk. If you read too much, you then become like an MBA student. You become too much of case studies. Right? You got to take the risk, as somebody said, you got to take the risk. I mean, obviously, some of my colleagues in my organization will agree they are MBAs. And the fact is, when we started, I mean, I run an enterprise called, I belong to an organization that provides solar power to rural households in rural Karnataka. The fundamental philosophy was when you try to start a business, you make sure that, or any enterprise, that you know that you need to know every part of the enterprise. And in my field, it was basically to provide electricity to people who didn't have electricity. I, coming from a very pampered background of studying in Rourkela, and then coming to IIT Kharagpur, I had personally not felt what it was to live without electricity. So when I went to do my master's and PhD in the US, I told my professor, I had a chance to go to Dominican Republic, that I haven't seen what it means, so I'm not going to write a PhD thesis which is going to collect dust in somebody's library. So I spent 2 years without electricity in Sri Lanka and India. Absolutely did not see the light bulb for 2 years. And those 2 years actually helped me feel what it was. What does a client, what do you mean by a client? What does a client actually mean? What do they need? How do you actually define those needs? How do you, I mean, it was not about, today what happens is everybody defines a product, this is a supply chain, until you do not know the whole chain, so feel it. And this is the time, because many of you don't have money, many of you are not married, that's been no response, hopefully not married, that you don't have responsibilities and nobody knows you. This is the best time to experiment. You have, this is the time to travel. This is the time to go and see. Okay, I have an idea which I would like to implement in 2 years, but let me know what it is out there. And when you're 20, 21, 22, that's it, that's travel. And that forced me, and in my own travels, I met people who actually, and always, I mean, in a sense that I met people who basically inspired me in a way that where I say sometimes when a lot of the younger generation, Arey yaar, wo buddha ke saath kaun baithega. And I was, see, for example, when I got into this field, and this was in IIT, but solidly into field of in solar in 1990, most of my friends were above 60. Because in the solar field, it was the California hippie. So my wife gets very angry today because I get more invitation to funerals than weddings. Because those guys are dying out, right? So, I mean, for example, I had to write an email last year to somebody just to see whether he was alive or not. And he replied me an email from which you will know what his age would be. He said, Harish, I'm very much alive, and I'm writing my experiences of World War II. He's 91. John Nair is 91. He's the only guy I know who knew Mahatma Gandhi. And the guy used to tell me the history between, the discussions between Mahatma Gandhi and other in the 44. And then I had this other friend who's Tony Carr, who used to be the driver of Martin Luther King. And these are the guys who taught me what sustainability was. And what entrepreneurship actually means is not about okay, how do I make how much profits? But these guys taught me what sustainability of entrepreneurship means. How do you look at holistic? And this is a country where you need to be thinking of that today.